Hi everyone, it's Justine. 2 years ago next week I uploaded my very first video on this channel saying why I'm starting a YouTube channel. But it wasn't the first video I filmed. The first one I did with the help of a friend who held the camera and did pretty much all the editing for me. Was a drawing tutorial. I wanted to show you fashion drawing techniques and I ended up with a girl drawn in contours in black ink. And I said, next time I'll show you how to add color to this girl. And I never did for some reason. So I'd like to do it today using two different marker brands so you can see the difference, and I'm going to use different techniques because I know that they're not behaving the same way on paper, kind of when you blend and how you apply them is different. I'm using my forever markers, AD Chartpak, plus a mini set of Copic markers that I bought because I wanted to try them out. So you will see, and I will list the colors I'm using in the right order in the description below. I draw on marker paper and I always test the colors on the side on the right beforehand. Here my base tone for the skin is called Pale Flesh. With AD markers, make sure you don't go too close to the edges because it will always bleed. So I start by applying my base tone onto the body. While this dries, I'm moving on to the next side. On the right side, I will use only Copic markers. And here you see Copics have two different tips. A thick one, though not as thick as the AD markers, and a thinner one that is softer. It looks more like a brush. It's more like painting, and it's obviously better for very small areas. So I'm going to start with this tip actually. Here I can immediately tell that it's drier. The tip is not giving as much ink and it's not bleeding as much as on the other side. So I will need to fill in all the corners and little areas myself. And actually this tip is too small for the area I have to do. So I'm moving back to the wider tip. So clearly, Copics are drier and give less ink, so the color overall is much paler. Moving on to the clothes of the girl. Here in AD I'm using the color Mauve and I lay it down homogeneously with the widest tip I can, and I actually like this white tip a lot. You can see marks when I go in again, but it's not a problem because this will completely disappear when it dries. As my Copic equivalent, I'm choosing the color Pale Grape. And here very quickly I can tell that the tip is a lot drier. Actually, if I go as fast as I go when you use AD, I don't get enough color and I have to go in again. Crazy. And it also really doesn't bleed at all, so I have to fill all the little corners myself. While I'm here, I might as well fill in what I forgot, and that's the back of those fabric movements. I do that with a waterproof and a marker-proof fine liner in black. Moving on to the pens, here I'm using the AD color called Light Sand. You can see it's already quite a bright color. AD markers are just brighter, a bit more intense, a bit more saturated than the Copic. And here AD markers are best because I can use the white tip and go all the way down. It's even better if you do it all in once, as long as you can stop before the edge. And as I said, all the marks will eventually disappear when it dries. With the Copic marker, since it's drier, I need to take my time when I go down in order to get enough ink, enough color, and the marks will remain when it dries. But if you place them strategically where you want the pens to be darker anyways, then it's an advantage actually. My skin base tone is dry, so I can go in and add some shadows. On top of Pale Flesh in AD markers, I'm using flesh, so it's literally one tone darker for the shadowing. I'm adding in some contrast on the face contours, next to the hair roots, where the eyes would be, under the chin, under the collarbones, where you would see shadow when you look at somebody in daylight, and next to the clothes and where the arms touch the rest of the body. The pants are wide, so they're also gonna throw some shadow over the feet. That's why under the pants I see some shadow, and also where the toes meet the ground. Now I'm switching back to my base tone, my lighter tone, which was pale flesh, and I'm gonna try to soften a bit the contrast, the edge between flesh and pale flesh. I could technically also go over my whole pale area in order to give it more brightness. That's the advantage of alcohol-based markers. I'm using only 2 colors, but it's going to look like I'm using 3 because I blend them properly in between. On the Copic side, my base color was pinkish white, so I'm going in with a darker color, and this one is called Blush. But since it dries so much faster and it's overall drier when I apply it, I need to switch back and forth faster between the 2 tones. So here you see, I'm switching over and over to make sure I can blend them well together to get a nice smooth gradient before it dries up. Right now, if you compare the 2 faces, you see that the one on the left is more intense in color overall, but the face on the right side actually has more contrast and a smoother gradient between the lightest areas and the darkest areas of the face. Now let's add contrast to the pens. Here I'm going to do the shadowing for both drawings with the exact same color I used the first time around, so that we can see for each brand if tone-on-tone shadowing works. Here shadow would be underneath the top, since the top is flowy and wider than the pants. Underneath the pockets, where the crotch is, then also on the inside between the legs, because this area gets less light from the outside or from above. And then at the bottom, plus some creases or folds produced by the movement, by the fact that she's walking. Now, I know that on this side it looks like the tone-on-tone shadowing works, but when it dries, the contrast becomes too little and you don't really see that it's a proper shadow anymore. So on AD Chartpak, you should always be at least darker, if not gray, dark gray when you do your shadowing. On the right side, the marks that I left going in the first time around on the pens actually now start to look like it's smoother. The transitions are not as ugly as they were in the first place. So it's starting to look like watercolor actually, and that textured surface is really nice. So I'm doing the same thing. The contrast looks okay. I know that on the right side it's drier already, so the end result is going to look more like what I'm doing right now. Whereas on the left side you can see already that the shadow is blending with the first layer and it's starting to disappear. Now I'm doing some tone-on-tone shadowing on the top with AD Chartpak. I add contrast to the folds produced by the flowiness of the fabric on the left and on the right. A little bit under the breast just to mark that she does have a chest. The area where the top meets the arm, it made the arm darker. Now it's making also the top darker. Both sides are making shadow for each other. On the Copic side, right now my top looks really washed out. It's not purple enough, it's not bright enough for my taste. But while I'm going in with a tone-on-tone shadow, I realized that here, since it's drier, I have it much more under control. I go in wherever I want, millimeter precisely, and the shadow will stop where I made it stop. It's not gonna move like it's doing on the left side right now already. Here too, I'm adding contrast on the left side and the right side of each fold, in the corners and on the back side of the fabric that I can see because the fabric is moving. So I think that AD Chartpak helps you blend better and get brighter colors, while Copic helps you add texture. It's a bit easier to control, but I do like the brightness and the intensity of Chartpak. Which one do you prefer? What's your favorite result? Thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much. I'm in the process of preparing the upcoming collection, so you'll see more videos like that on drawing, on creating, about fabrics, about the design and the creative process in general. So look forward to this, because this time around I really want to document that properly here on YouTube for you guys. The upload times remain the same though. I'm not slowing down or anything. It's still Wednesday 4 p.m. and Sunday noon at London time +1. It's always the same time, so you can count on me there. Subscribe to my channel to follow that process and to learn about fashion and style in general and everything related. Take care and see you soon. Bye bye.